went through my 20s where I liked all these guys. We would be friends. I would say I like them, and then they would be like, I'm not interested. I really don't know why those didn't work, but at the same time, my mindset was not healthy. Like, it was not just being like, okay, it wasn't a good match. Like, they're not interested. But I found I threw myself at them, like all of them. I would, message them, ask them to hang out. Like, it was like I was doing all the pursuing, thinking, oh, then they'll one day wake up and just be interested in me.
Welcome to the Christians Who Date podcast. This is Andrea Alley and
Kalli Christopherson
and Lauren Bornick.
Whoa, what a twist on your name there.
Yeah,
I know. Wow. I don't know why. Also, my microphone looks a little weird, but it just is what it is.
Don't even get me started on your microphone.
Yeah, your microphone's a hot mess.
Causes trouble.
Podcast.
And I'm
basically
frugal.
every time.
I'm gonna try to make this microphone work till the end, but eventually I'm gonna have to purchase a new one. But for now, we're fine. Also, it's October, which is crazy. And at least for Dre and I, we're both in the heat still. I'm wearing a tank top and shorts.
We're so wearing tank tops.
So it's like 90 degrees here.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Come to
Fully
Montana again.
Yesterday I was drinking my pumpkin cream cold brew.
I was like, why was that so hard to say?
I don't know. I was going to say my PSL, but it wasn't a PSL.
Okay.
It's pumpkin cream cold brew because we're a bunch of basic girls like that.
Girls be girlin'.
Girls be girlin'. Anyway, in a t-shirt and shorts, and I was like, "Yep, this is Austin. This is Austin.
Me. This is me in the fall in Austin."
Yeah. So I'm a little jealous and a little heartbroken. And I'll explain later. But Andrea got hit on again this week.
Andrea's on fire.
She has been on fire, and the stories keep coming in, and it's like maybe just the aura of her confidence lately is just oozing the world. So Andrea, tell us about what happened at the coffee shop.
Tell us.
Same coffee shop. For everyone who tuned in last week and heard the story about the guy who was like, "Are you an alien? Because you're out of this world." It was literally, this coffee shop must be where I have my mojo or something.
Intelligentsia.
Average coffee.
I actually don't know what mojo means, but in New Girl, that's what Winston calls it. Anyway, sorry, tangent. Okay, I was outside Intelligentsia, and I actually like kind of drifted a little bit to a coffee table, or a table that's like farther out. And so I'm just working at this table, and I didn't know if the Wi-Fi was going to reach, but it did. And so I'm like, cool.
Miracle.
I know,
Success.
Right? These are this is the life of a remote employee.
Yes.
Anyway, so then this guy just comes up to me, and he has his dog with him. And
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, I left that out.
I kept that to myself so I could surprise you guys on the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm shocked. A dog.
This changes the whole story.
What the heck?
So his dog was with him, and he's like, how are you working out here? Like, what Wi-Fi are you using? And I was like, Intelligentsia's. It reached. I didn't know if it was going to, and I kind of like go into my struggle, and because I'm at a point in my life where I'm inviting conversation,
yes you are.
I'm inviting it. And so we start to talk, and we're chit-chatting it up, and he's telling me how he's working remote for the first time in his life. And and I'm like trying to banter with him, like when you're like kind of dropping things to see if they like pick it up. And he was like,
I'm a babe. Let's talk.
What do you got, son?
He was like, for the most part, sticking with me, I would say. And then at the end, I'm like, I think he's going to ask for my number. And I'm trying to kind of figure out, like, you guys know, like, what am I going to say? Like,
yes or no.
You start to sense it.
You're like, what am I? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because I'm like, I've never met this guy. I'm literally in real time. I'm trying to analyze like where I'm at. Yeah. And so he says, he's like, well, would you ever want to get coffee in like a non-work related setting? And I was like, maybe.
It's fair.
Because that's how I felt in my head.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
You didn't know.
I didn't know. I was trying to figure it out. I think I was like, I think I just probably wasn't super interested, but it wasn't like an immediate no. Yeah. So I was just in the middle, and I was like, I don't really
cute,
know.
or was it like?
I asked that question too.
That's right. That'll help one way or the other.
I think he was cute. I think he wasn't like my like instant type where I'm like, oh yeah,
totally.
You know,
which I was laughing because Dre's like I'm like, well, the fact that you're questioning this hard shows you probably weren't attracted to him.
Yeah.
Or
I feel like he was objectively cute though. It was just like he's not really my kind of like, oh yeah, like that's my type or whatever.
Wait, so continue. Tell us more of what he asked
so then
you.
I'm like, maybe, and I'm like trying to decide, like, should I just go for it, you know? And he says, are you married? And I'm like, no, I'm not married. And then he's like, are you in the intermediate stages, like leading up to marriage? And I didn't get what he was saying. I
like engaged.
Yeah, I was engaged. I was like, yeah. I mean, like, am I trying to date? Yes. And so then
but
when
you
I
didn't
said
say
yes,
that to him. You didn't say that to him. Yeah,
I just said yes. Yeah, I was like yes. And he's like,
question mark.
He's like, okay. And so then I realized, oh, he took that as like I'm dating someone else. And so then he's like, well, I'll see you around. And I'm like he's walking away and I'm like figuring it, like I'm like calculating it out, you know, like, oh, he thought I meant that I'm dating someone. Like it's like dawning on me. And then I'm like, should I go run after him and be like, hey, wait, I'm not dating anyone? And then I was like, nah.
You got your answer at the end.
Like, I'm gonna let it lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
let it be.
I love that he like first inched like, are you married? And then the questioning, I've never heard anyone phrase it that way. Like, are you in the intermediate stage?
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Like, I would be like, define?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
Totally.
So technical. I would have just been like, are you dating? Are you interested in coffee?
I'm like, maybe we're not a match if I'm gonna have to like work this hard to figure out.
That was a lot of thinking.
Yeah. He probably needs someone just a little, maybe, who would know exactly what he means by that, you know?
Or are you gonna say like lower IQ?
I was gonna say smart. No, I was gonna say smarter.
Because your hand went down. So I was like, you know,
yeah, I was
level.
like, here, I'm like down here. But I also am like, I didn't want to call myself not smart, you know?
Well, that's not what was happening.
Way to go for him, like, trying, though, because obviously he, like, started the conversation because he was really probably just interested in talking to you, and that was his way of talking to you through the Wi-Fi, and that's actually, like, so easy. So I feel like that was a tip you gave Kalli in one of the podcasts. You're like, just talk about, like, a random thing in the area, like the Wi-Fi, and then that creates conversation.
Yeah.
So
that was the thing about it, is I honestly feel like he did a great job until the end when I was a little unclear on what he was saying.
Yeah. And it was just he wasn't clear.
Yeah. And I actually wonder if he had come in with an assumption of like, oh, pretty girl at a table, she's probably seeing someone.
Which, you know, I've always have assumed that with guys that I'm attracted to. I'm like,
do too. Totally.
They're probably married or they're probably dating, so I don't want to be weird or creepy. Like, you know, because that would be super awkward if you're hitting on someone that's in a relationship.
Totally. So I wonder if that was already in the back of his head, and so he was just waiting for me to say, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. Because his questions were very like, I don't know, relationship driven. Like you were already in some kind of thing. So that's right. That's an interesting point.
I will say, I told my roommate what he said, and she's like, oh yeah, he's asking if you're dating anyone.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have understood.
All right. Well, I didn't get it.
I've been like,
we didn't get it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. So anyway, yeah, I sent a voice note like immediately after this happened.
So Dre sends the voice note. I'm listening. I'm doing my dishes. My jaw's dropping listening to this woman. And I'm like, this woman is just getting asked out left and right.
Left and
such a babe. So, I'm like, I'm going to test this out. So I go to Starbucks.
Wait, because you literally, I can't remember if you texted us or voice note, but you were like, oh, the reason I'm not getting asked out is because
I'm running all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm running. I'm not sitting like you are.
Not sitting still.
Right, yeah.
I don't have time for people to ask me out because I'm always on the move. So anyways, I was like, I'm going to go to Starbucks and try this out. So I go to Starbucks and I'm like doing my work. And I'm like trying to like have eye contact with anyone I think is semi-attractive. And there was like this cute fireman that came in, and I'm like, I literally like watched him go in, watched him go out, ignores me completely. And I was like, this just doesn't work for me. Like, no one's asking me out. I'm trying so hard to be available. And so anyways, I messaged the girls and I was like, it doesn't work. It's Dre. Like, it's a Dre thing. So it was cracking me up.
It's so funny.
Goodness.
But we also
say,
go ahead.
Go, Cal.
No. Go for it.
I was just going to say that this never used to happen to me. It really didn't. But in the last like 4 years, it's happened a crazy amount.
Yes, it has.
Listen to our podcast about how to get a date if you want to know my secrets.
That's right. That's right. Shameless plug.
That. Oh, no, so good.
On our podcast. No, I was going to say though, because we also talked in another episode about how trying to flirt like somebody else usually doesn't work. But I will say, I'm like, what you did, Lauren, is very, basic. And I think a lot of people should try that just to see, what happens. But also, did you have your headphones in? That is my question.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
But no, I literally overall, people do not approach me in public. I think I have like a don't mess with me type of thing. But I try to I talk to a lot of women in public. Like, I was going to say,
I think actually from a friend who has gone around with you in public before, I think it's specifically directed at the men.
Yeah, the men. Yeah, I'm like, I'll fight you. Like, you're probably married trying to flirt with me, and I'm not going to be a part of a broken marriage,
Oh my gosh.
But with girls, she's like, oh my gosh, cute top.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you look amazing today.
So friendly and open.
Yeah. So anyways, not the point. But Cal, what are we talking about today?
Oh, guys, today we are talking about women making the first move. What are your thoughts?
Whoa.
I know. We does it work? Does it not? We're here to answer your questions. So we're gonna dive in here.
Yeah.
A
lot of women ask this: can girls make the first move? And the short answer to that is yeah. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I think the more complex part of that is, does it work?
That is the question.
Does it actually work?
Does it actually work?
And what do we
Lauren.
think? Well, I was gonna say, it was so funny. I've never heard your guys' thoughts, and we all agreed. We actually do not think it works overall statistically, at least in our dating history, us making the first move. But what does that mean and look like? And we can discuss further.
And we're all about being powerful women, like if you want to go ask a guy out, you go ask him out. But we're also going to tell you, in our experience, we just do not see that working. And it's funny because I actually was sitting with one of my guy friends the other day, and I was telling him like, hey, I feel like you kind of have like a little bit of an advantage, just because if you see a girl that you like, you can kind of like pursue her or like woo her over time, and there's a better chance that she'll be won over to you than the like other way around. And he's like, but why couldn't you do that with a guy? And I was like, I mean, I could, but I don't ever see that work. I was like, do you think it works? And I can't remember what he said, but in my head, he agreed with me. So
he was like, I agree with you 100%. That's all I remember him saying. Yeah.
All I remember is that I made a great point, and that's all I remember.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I think there's been, because I am more of a just like initiator type of person. I feel like overall the guys throughout the years that I've liked, that I've like pursued and asked out or been like, I like you, I want to date you, overall they've been like no, because it's just like a turnoff to them. But the thing is, I've been able to like create that momentum through initiating conversation or friendship, and in that then it's given them kind of that open door for them to pursue
Yes.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so I found that has worked more, where I have just found like anytime I'm like kind of going after the guy, it's almost been to them more like nah. But
Mm-hmm.
the breaking the ice thing, I think there's like a ton of ways to do that can then allow kind of give them that courage of like, oh, I might have a chance with this person, or I might actually be interested in them. And so
Mm-hmm.
we show our availability, if anything.
Right.
Yes.
For sure. We wanted to differentiate that. We do think that women breaking the ice
Mm-hmm.
does work.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I've seen just conversation and like being open, being available. I think those are huge like tools that girls use that work. But a woman like basically pursuing a man, I think that just doesn't work. I will say there are exceptions to every rule, but I think
totally.
those are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
When a man is really interested in a woman, I'm like, he just doesn't stop and he just goes for it. But I've also seen girls like get fixated on guys and like do everything like and like ask them out or just like just put themselves out there time and time again. And the guy will just be super wishy-washy. And I think it comes off almost like, oh, this person, like I could have them if I want them, but it doesn't make it very appealing. And a book we were talking about, full disclosure, I have not read it, but so many people have referenced it to me. It's called Wild at Heart. And it's just basically about like men and how they're wired to pursue and just masculinity, all of those things. But it is just like, a man is made to pursue a woman and like women are made to be pursued. It's like very simple terms, but that's just consistently what I've seen across the board. And I think I've also seen girls be like, oh, this one guy, like he's not interested in women. Like he doesn't want to date anybody. And they come up with all these reasons why like he's not interested in them. And then one day there's just this random girl that comes by and suddenly he totally switches. And then they're like, I don't understand. And I'm like, he just wasn't interested in you. Like, it's a harsh reality, but it's true.
Yeah, for sure. I've been the girl. I'm like, oh my gosh, he just doesn't know what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden 2 months later, it's like, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly how to pursue a woman this entire time. It just was
not us. Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. And it's harsh, but it's like, it's helpful to know because I think we do want to blame it on the guy instead of just owning like, okay, he's not interested in me.
Yeah.
And for whatever reasons. And that could be because it's just not a good match, or I think I used to, because there was just I told you all, I went through my 20s where I liked all these guys. We would be friends. I would say I like them, and then they would be like, I'm not interested, and then they'd meet their wife like the next month or two, and they're all married. And I turned in internally as like, something's wrong with me. Like guys aren't attracted to me. I'm not attractive. So I really internalized like, I'm not attractive. I'm not liked. Like, and the thing is like, I really don't know why those didn't work, but at the same time, my mindset was not healthy. Like it was not just being like, okay, it wasn't a good match. Like they're not interested, but I found I threw myself at them, like all of them. Like I would just, so many different things. I call it kind of like breadcrumbing in a sense of like, I would, message them, ask them to hang out. Like it was like, I was doing all the pursuing, thinking, oh, then they'll one day wake up and just be interested in me.
Totally.
And just instead of like creating like, no, you have to give them something a little bit to chase. And not that, no, not playing testing or like messing with a guy or anything like that. I'm not playing about that chasing, but just being like, making yourself available, but not to the point, like you have to have them to be curious and have something to like actually get to know and go after. So
and you can't have a scarcity mindset. I think that's what it's rooted in, is you have to have this mindset of like, all right, he's just one guy. There will be another guy that comes along. So then you can just have this very like, if you need to have a conversation, and we're not saying like don't have a conversation with a guy if you like him. Like we've all done that. And honestly, even if he says no, even if it like quote unquote doesn't work, it's more for your heart. Like it's more for you to give your heart a voice and feel like, okay, now I just know that's a closed door and I can move on. And actually I have heard girls that DTR'd like a friend of theirs and it did work out for them.
Wait,
so
what is Andrea, what is DTR for the people out there?
DTR is define the relationship, and it means you're in a situationship with a guy where you're friends, but you're kind of flirty and you don't know what's going on. And so, and your heart is like having some feels,
pining.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm not actually being fully honest if I just pretend that I'm like, that this guy's just a friend to me. So I need to like have a conversation where I just figure out where he's at. And then maybe you might actually have to set some boundaries because some guys are a little bit flirty. And,
yes.
And they need you to, you know, tell them like, okay, I'm not going to be able to. Girls are too. So guys, you have permission also. If a girl's really flirty, and she doesn't actually want to date you, you have permission to be like, okay, then I'm going to have to put some boundaries here because like this flirtatiousness is just making it confusing for me. I can't remember if that's what I was trying to say in the beginning, but that's where I ended up.
That's good. Like look that up in the dictionary and there's a whole paragraph. I love it.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. So I feel like, you know, right now we're covering that we don't think that like women should be making the first move in the sense of asking a guy out overall, but we think that we can create momentum or break the ice. So anything else we want to say on that?
Yeah. And it's really, we're mostly just trying to be honest about what we've seen work.
Yeah.
Like we're not trying to say like the Bible says that girls aren't allowed to ask boys on dates. Like that's not what we're saying. No. We're just saying like statistically, as we've seen it play out, like there's a very real dynamic going on where like guys fulfill the guys are going to fulfill the way that they're designed and women are going to fulfill the way that they're designed. And if you try to go against it too much, like don't be surprised if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't mean that you don't pursue each other in dating relationship. This is more like getting to the dating point, because I think once you're dating and marriage, like there's a back and forth pursuit of each other, like of each other's hearts, laying down your life. We've talked about like there's a constant like, you know, back and forth of loving each other, caring for each other. But when it creates to, you know, for those listening, like how to get a boyfriend, you know, to get into that place of romance and where you're dating, that's where we've seen this be a little bit tricky of, you know, because of course for me, I'm like, I would have had a boyfriend the rest of my life if I had it my way, because I'm like you, I want to date you. And it doesn't work that way. Like I just haven't seen it match like that. So so with that, what about let's share a couple ways that like we've all like broken the ice, or ways that have like as women we can still create momentum that could lead to dating.
I have like a fun story that I didn't share on how to get a date. This was like a year ago ish. No, 2 years ago. Man, where has the time come or gone?
That's right. Thank you.
That's an inside joke with Kalli. But anyway,
Katie will like it.
Yeah,
she's listening.
Katie will appreciate. Anyway, so I'm at a coffee shop. That is where these things happen for me.
Typical.
So good.
And I am sitting next to this guy who is very handsome. I don't feel that way very often.
Praise God.
So when I do, I'm like, take note here. Like, you know, I'm like, this man is attractive. So he's sitting there and I'm doing work, doing work, quote unquote.
Updating Facebook.
And I'm like, I kind of just started having this thing where like if I saw a guy that was attractive, I would try to break the ice like every time, because I think like when that doesn't happen for you very often, you're like, I got to take advantage of these moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I see this guy next to me, and he's super cute, and I kind of see him like he has like a notebook, and so I mean, it takes me a good like I feel like 30 minutes to come up with like my first move. And so first I feel it out with, hey, do you mind watching my step for a second while I go to the bathroom?
That's great.
It's
yep,
smooth.
easy, practical. He has to do something.
Know my moves now, but anyway, it's fine.
It's so vulnerable.
No, we have to help people out. People go to coffee shops. I've seen it.
True. The next guy I asked this for, he's gonna be like, I know what you're doing. But anyway. And then I think what that does is it tells you like how open they are, like because if he's just kind of like barely acknowledges you, then that's kind of, I don't know, that's enough to like make me scared, I guess. Back me down. But hey, feel free to push through that if you want to.
Down.
Yeah, I'm like, oh gosh, he like barely acknowledged me. But this guy gave me, I guess, enough of a response. It wasn't amazing that I was like, all right, I'm going to make another move. And so I like come back, I sit down, and then I think I wait maybe like 15 more minutes. And I'm like, so are you a student?
Nice.
And he's like, no, I'm just like, I forgot what he even said. And then we start talking, and you guys are going to laugh because this is so like, why does this happen to me and Lauren all the time? We literally get on the topic of faith.
Classic.
Dude, we are missionaries. We're single women. We're called to be missionaries to the people.
And he starts asking me about my faith. And so what started as like a dating opportunity turned into like an evangelism.
It always ends up there.
It always ends up there. But anyway, we had a good conversation about it just in this coffee shop, probably for a good 45 minutes. We're just talking about, the deeper questions of life. And at the end of that, he wrote down his phone number and said, hey, like, I'm here. He was just passing through Austin. So he's like, I'm here for...
I forgot about this one.
It's like yeah,
he's like
a whirlwind romance.
This was my whirlwind romance. So he gives me his number, and I reached out to him later.
Yeah, because he's hot.
Right. And he obviously needs the gospel.
It's my favorite kind of person to preach to.
We actually met. Oh my God.
Kalli. Wow.
Who doesn't?
I love this so much. Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
Wow.
We actually met up, I think 2 other times, and just kind of hung out. It was kind of nice because it was like he's passing through. And so it was like it did feel a little bit like it's like it was just low stakes. You're like, we're gonna hang out, we'll just enjoy like getting to know each other, but like this probably isn't going anywhere because you literally don't even live here.
Yeah. That's good.
But he was like easy to talk to, and yeah, we had good conversations like the next couple times. And I was proud of myself for taking a risk. But the thing I want to highlight is that I made that first I took that first risk, but then he like made a move after that.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of what I'm looking for, is like, I don't mind putting myself out there looking like an idiot if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I am looking for like a guy who's going to be like, okay, I'm going to reciprocate. And then I'm even maybe going to like, like bear the bulk of like pursuit in the beginning.
Yeah, I'll go after you because I completely agree. Every successful dating relationship, even if it's in a couple dates or longer dating, I think I've broken the ice with majority of them, but then they were the ones
Lauren
that
is so good at breaking the ice.
They're the ones that actually pursued me and like wanting to have a date, wanting to date me, all of that, like that has been always the guy. And to me, like I still felt really like powerful. And I mean, it's kind of vulnerable because I remember there's some guys like I was kind of making myself like available to them of like, I'm going to be in their social circles. I'm going to show up in places where I know they're at, and not in a stalking way, just like, hey, I like this
in a
person.
strategic way.
Strategic is one of my strengths.
That's right.
And just being like, hey, I'm going to like keep getting to know them and be friends with them. So I was kind of pursuing them in a low key way of like, I'm going to keep connecting with you because then you'll get to know me and see if you're interested, you know?
Yep.
Because I found that what has not worked in the times is like, I just was like super like, I like you. Can we like get on a date? I feel like most guys have been pretty turned off by it. And so I like them to think they're pursuing me. So, when I'm like, I'm low key making myself available to you. But what I was going to say is that really any type of breaking ice, even with strangers, like sometimes has created like getting their number or there's momentum, but not me being like, can we have a date? Can I that just hasn't worked on my side of things.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking of when we were talking is I've had a couple times girlfriends or guy friends be like, oh, I want you to like meet this person, just like DM them or Facebook message them or whatever. And I found anytime I was the one reaching out to the guy to make a connection of like, hey, our whatever mutual friend said I should connect to you, I have had no good track record with it. I don't know why.
Interesting.
And so every time I've been like, we should connect, even if it's like quote a friend level, obviously they know there's something else because that person, you know, people are trying to match make. And so they're like, oh, just reach out to the dude. Like, I just have not found it work. Now, when the guys or girls have been like, hey, would you be interested in getting to know this girl? And the guy has been like, yeah, I'd like to. And he's initiated it. I feel like that has worked a lot better.
Okay.
That's just been my personal experience. You guys can push back. But I don't know why. I've just had I think I've had it at least 5 or 6 times where like I've made that move of like our mutual friend connecting us and they're aware of it. And it's just been like died pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually don't know that I've ever had that. I haven't had somebody be like, hey, you should reach out to this guy. And then I did.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Just a tip for friends. I think it should be if the guy's interested in making a move or like connecting with the girl. Cause I don't know why people are like putting all on the woman. Like, that guy's single, just reach out to him. And I'm like, I don't know why it just doesn't seem to work.
You're like, he can also reach out to me.
Like,
right. Yeah.
So it might sound old school in this day and age, but I think there's something in a dude that he wants to take that lead.
Yeah. I think so too.
I think again, it just comes down to like, how are we wired? And men are wired to pursue. It's just how it is. Okay. One of my stories.
Yes, Kalli.
I'm like thinking about which ones.
So many always.
So many to choose from.
We're out there trying, you guys.
We're out there dating. Okay.
We're out there failing, so you don't have to.
That's right.
Just kidding. No, you still should.
No, absolutely. So this one, I was at like basically like a home group situation.
Church
always situation, aka church. No, it wasn't church actually. It was a group. It was a different group. But there were a lot of guys at this group, and I was just like, I think I just need to like talk to some men. And it had been a while.
That sounds really funny.
I know, but it had been a while since I'd been around some men. Like basically it was just around like most of my friends are girls. And I was like,
is this while we were living together?
Feeling rusty. No, it wasn't. No.
Okay.
I think this, anyways, I know this story, but continue.
I don't think you do, Lauren. But
anyways, dang it.
But Lauren is my
groups.
Lauren is my groups.
Good try, Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren is my reference for all the dating stories. She remembers everyone I have.
I love relationships.
Anyways,
the Rolodex
group, I was like, all right, I want to talk to some men. So
let's go, Kalli.
There was one guy, and he was like helping at the end, like clean up. the party, and I had noticed this guy, and I was like, I just kind of want to chat with him. Like he had shared a little bit in the group, and I was like, I just kind of like what he said. So I just made a comment about him doing the dishes. I'm like, classic. And I said his name. I just met him. I'm like, always like helping. And he like kind of like laughs and like looks at me. And I was like, I introduced myself. I was like, you maybe caught my name earlier, but I was like, I'm Kalli. And we just strike up a conversation, and I just ask him like, oh, like, where are you from? And like, we just start talking about like random stuff. And later we end up like, we keep going to this group and kind of getting to know each other and like getting partnered up for a couple things. And he's like a really solid guy. And eventually he ended up like asking me out, and we did go out, and it was good. But I like, even when he asked me out, I was like, I definitely know I am not interested in him romantically, but I just like, originally when I talked to him, I just wanted to see what he was like and just get a feel for him.
Yeah.
And he amazing guy, but we just weren't a good fit. But that all happened because I literally was just like, oh, classic, you're always helping. Like,
Which is so you, Kalli, like that banter.
Exactly.
You're like,
Kalli,
can you match my banter?
Totally. Yeah. So that, that was cool. And I was like, again, you know, take the victory the size of a man's fist.
That's right.
I'm like, come on, because once again, that had been a while since I'd been like asked out. So I was like, look, it's working. I'm just chatting with people and things are opening up. Also, something else one time I did, I went to this coffee shop, Andrea's territory. And
whoa.
I know,
it doesn't work for all.
It wasn't intelligentsia though. So there you go.
No, okay.
But there was like a cute barista working, and I went to this coffee shop like a decent amount.
Baristas,
right? And thought he was super cute. And at first, he actually was like chatting with me. I was getting a little bit of a vibe. I was like, oh, interesting. And I had some friends that like worked at this coffee shop. And so I was just like, okay. And similar to Andrea, it's not every day I'm like, that man's super attractive. So I took note. I was like, okay, cool. He works here. Awesome. So I made it a point to go to that coffee shop pretty regularly. And if he was working, I tried to talk to him. And then I also had some friends, that knew him and like worked there a little bit. And so they'd kind of give me like, you know, some insider information. But I was really close to like reaching out, like either Instagram or, you know, like asking him to be my Facebook friend. This was, you know, a couple of years ago. But I just was like, I don't know. I just don't feel like I should. Like, at a certain point, I started going to the coffee shop a lot, and he at first was like very open, and then something switched and he just wasn't. And I was like, interesting. And later, my friend was just asking him about kind of his like, you know, relationship status or whatever. And he's like, honestly, I just don't want to date anyone right now. And so I was like, okay. And so that gave me like, that. I felt it. I definitely felt it. And honestly, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he just wasn't interested in me, which maybe, but I was confused because I'm like, our first few interactions, it definitely felt like you were interested a little bit, or at least, you know, in talking to me. So I don't know what happened, but I was also like, oh, okay. Like I definitely felt a switch and just kind of like let it be. And then I saw him around all the time, but after that, there was never like an interest from him again. I never felt it. So it was really interesting.
But there was like momentum and then
dipped. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. But I went to that coffee shop a lot. You're welcome. I won't name the coffee shop, but
but you were making yourself available.
Finding that coffee shop.
Not stalking, just making yourself available.
Making myself available.
That just reminded me, I had a Starbucks guy when I was in my master's program.
Yeah, you did.
I thought he was so cute, and we would banter and talk too when I went to Starbucks because I had to live on coffee to get through that program. And I remember he was a seminary student, so he was studying theology. And I said, he's like, oh, I just wrote this paper. And I go, could I read your paper? So dorky. And I was like, could I please like read that paper? He's like, great, here's my email. And I was like, I'm so excited. So I gave him some feedback. I literally read his 40-page seminary paper on baptism. And gave him
this is commitment.
That
gave
is
him
devotion.
I gave him feedback, and he goes, would you ever want to like get coffee and talk more about it? And so we got coffee, and after that, like nothing happened. But it like created this door because I was just like interested in something in his life, and was just like, oh my gosh, could I read that? And he was like, oh, you want to get coffee? It was like his segue in after that. And so
40 pages, girl.
I read 40 pages on baptism. It was great. It was really interesting.
So insightful.
So insightful. So yeah, you got to make these random moves.
Yeah.
So
okay, I have a tip for the newbies.
Ooh, tell us.
You like never do this. A great place to
curious.
Wait, you're saying
never
what not to do?
No, if you never do this, if you never just strike up conversations with strangers.
Gotcha.
There's people out there like that.
The way that Kalli and I heard it was don't ever do whatever you're about to say.
No.
Yeah.
If you never strike up random conversations, a good place where I have done this a lot is actually on an airplane.
Yes.
Because it's just you don't have anything to do.
Nope.
They don't have anything to do.
Nowhere to go.
Just practice talking to a stranger. Yeah. You could be like, so are you from here? Or are you from San Diego or wherever you're going? And then it's like so easy to talk because then they'll talk about like, oh, I'm going there for business, or I'm going to visit a friend, or I'm from there. And it's just really low stakes. And then if it dies, like just let it die. That's fine. But I've gotten in actually a lot of good conversations with young men on airplanes.
And for those that will never talk to a stranger on the airplane, aka me, because I'm so tired and I don't want to talk to people, there's plenty of other ways in your
lately, surprising.
I used to like evangelize to people, and now I'm kind of like, I'm so tired and sleep deprived.
Dude.
But I think it's the tip of like in your spheres, like having conversations with people. Like when you go to the grocery, or when you're at the gym, or when you're at church, like having those things. Another thing, since we're just on the topic, is what are your guys' ideas of or thoughts on friends matchmaking, or like kind of giving like a heads up? Because I just was with a couple on Sunday, and basically both of them were interested, and their friends were trying to matchmake them, but they didn't know that the one another were interested because they've known each other for years. So their friends kind of were like, hey, are you interested in so-and-so? She's like, actually, I kind of am. And they're like, is it okay if we give him like a heads up? And so she was like, sure. And so they were like, yeah, she's like interested in you. So it gave him the courage to start pursuing.
Nice.
And they were engaged like within months. Like it created that momentum through their friends matchmaking. So what are your guys' thoughts on like matchmaking when it comes to creating momentum and all that?
Yeah. If you're my friend listening, 100% permission to matchmake me. I think it's fine. I do think you have to be careful because like, I don't know, you can't try to like control the situation, I guess. Like you kind of just have to be like, I'm going to throw it out there and they do whatever they want with it. Yeah. Not that any of my friends would try to like control, but you know, you don't want to like get into like meddling in too much.
I would say it depends on the friend that's trying to match you up.
That's
100%. Because I've had so many friends that were like, I can think of like so many guys. And I'm like, we are friends at a certain level, but you don't really know me that well. And I think what you think I'm looking for is very different than I'm actually than what I'm wanting.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm very hesitant when people say like, I want to set you up with somebody. I'm like, I usually am like, tell me who you're thinking about. And I will let you know if you can like tell them to like message me or talk to me or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because I just don't trust many people that like they'll know what I like or what I want.
Yeah.
Very few people.
I hear that. I've been match
Yeah.
made quite a few times, and all of them have been pretty rough,
Ooh.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think I've just been kind of like down for it. Like I'm
Mhm.
like, sure, like let's try it, you
Yeah.
know.
And
So
there's totally that too. Like sometimes if you're like, hey, let's just try it, like awesome. But like I said, I usually just don't trust that many people in that area. Yeah.
That's real. I had a friend that met a single guy and he was like, I guess he had asked him like, hey, I know like a couple single women, like, are you open to being set up? And then he asked me and the guy said yes. And then he asked me if I like would want to see and like kind of check the guy, or if I'd want to be set up basically. And then one of our other friends was like, you should have her check him out first on Instagram. And so that was a good like way to do it, is just be like, okay, do it like based on his Instagram. Do I feel like open to a date? And so I think you do have to kind of float the idea and see if there's mutual interest. Like that's probably why it worked with your friends, Lauren, is because there was some mutual interest
there was
there.
mutual interest. And I mean, I've seen it go both ways. Even I definitely like, one of my main goals is to see like matchmake people. I feel like, because I think it's so amazing, and I'm like, let's help each other out. Like if there's good people. But I remember I had two friends. I was with them at a random like church service. This was a couple years ago. Kelly and Ryan, shout out, because they're married now. And Kelly and Ryan had never met each other. And he lived like 40 minutes away. He was just visiting the church that night. And anyways, afterwards I was talking to Kelly, and I was like, literally just came through into my head. I was like, Kelly, you and Ryan would be a perfect match. Like, I know you just met him, but you guys would be perfect. And she was like, huh. So she literally, like, then 2 days later, she's like, Lauren, this is so weird, but I'm praying about it. And I think I'm just going to like reach out to him and ask him to coffee, or add him on Instagram. And so she added him on Instagram. He added her back. And then she was like, she's like, I think I'm going to ask him to coffee. Should I do that? I was like, yeah, ask him to coffee. She asked him to coffee. And then he asked her to coffee. After that, they started dating, and they're now married. Like, it came through me just being like, hey, I think you and this guy would be a really good match. And then she took it from there of like, okay, I'm gonna add him on Instagram. Okay, I'm gonna ask him to coffee. And then he started pursuing her after that. So there is like,
she made the first move.
She made the first move. And I think sometimes it is true. Like, we can be a part of like helping connect people in that momentum as well. And so I'm not against it, obviously. It was their choices, but I'm like, hey, if we're able to help each other out, great. But
I will say too, bless all of you married people out there. But sometimes I feel like you guys are like, okay, you're single. I mean, you're 33. I feel like you'll probably settle for anyone at this point. So I'm just going to throw out like some options here. And it's a little insulting. It's a little insulting.
Say it again.
Because singleness is an option. It is an option. And honestly, compared to a lot of situations out there, it's the better option. So don't just assume that like because we're single we'll settle for, like, don't assume that we have no options at all, and so you're the first one to bring up like a single man in 2 years or whatever. So we're just like, finally, okay, like it's like I don't know.
I think it's having conversation with your friends about it. I loved, someone said, would you be open to being set up? Or would you be open for me suggesting someone? And then it gives you the choice to say, no, I'm not really interested. Or, I am really interested. And then that, I feel like those who are married or want to match other people, it's like giving your single friends choices and not just assuming, oh, you want to be match made for sure because you're single.
And it's like, does he actually have good character? Like, not just like, is he single? Like, is he a good guy? Like, you know? So we don't need anyone perfect, which we've said before, but it's just like, definitely the criteria is more than just single, is all I'm trying to say. I don't know. Am I making that up? Have you guys felt that before?
Oh, 100%. Like,
I've had crazy situations.
I can think of my sweet brother. I'll just throw him out there, but he's thrown out people that I'm like, you are just digging through the archives. Like, I think they're still single, and I'm like, I'm your sister. I feel so insulted right now. Oh man.
There
Yeah.
is, you know what? There's someone for everyone, I think. Or I don't know how you say
There's
it.
a lid for every jar.
A lid for every
That's
jar.
right. Yeah. And I'm not the lid
I'm
for
not
this
the
jar.
whatever it is.
Whatever one I am. The jar, the lid, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Neither one.
So,
It's not me.
Yeah.
I like the way round hole.
I like the way this conversation has turned, where we've gone from can women make, women pursue men to matchmaking, which it all ties in together. So
next time you're on a plane, I want you to strike up a conversation.
Homework
with the person next to you.
I'm like, no, just sleep. I need rest.
Lauren, hilarious.
I'm like Trader Joe's. I'll talk to people.
Dude,
Hey,
Lauren and I should be on a flight. Lauren and I should be on a flight together because I feel like we'll swap personalities. Because normally I'm the one. Normally I'm the one that's like, just keep going, don't talk to anybody. And Lauren's the one like, hey, I like your outfit. Hey, cool snacks. Like,
yeah, totally.
Then on a plane, all of a sudden I'm like, so where are you going? Where are you from? What's going on?
I'm like, don't talk to me. So,
oh man.
Oh, well, anything to wrap this up today?
Nope.
I feel like we covered it. We covered it.
Okay. I think my one takeaway from this podcast for today is everything is more from our experience of what we've seen with women. So we're not saying one way is the way to get a boyfriend or to date. But we're saying this is like overarching, like from our experience, what has worked versus not, of like, we can break the ice, but we found that it seems to work better when the guy does make the first move. But obviously you heard my friend Kelly and Ryan, she made the first move and here they are today. So it
could totally be us. Could just be us.
Yep, it's so true.
But I love what Kalli said is like, there is something in a man that like wants to pursue a woman, and it seems like it just works better that way. And so that you're not chasing and like throwing yourself after the dude. It just seems like it doesn't work well. So that's our thoughts. But I go out there, keep meeting people, creating that momentum, because it does work.
Yeah. Just try something. Who knows? Just see what happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And definitely don't. I will say there's been guys that have come up to me and been like, hey, I think you're really attractive. Would you like to go out sometime? And like, I'm like, I just met you 1 second ago. So I think on the guy's end, like a tip would be to just kind of like try to have a conversation first.
Yeah.
To make her feel comfortable. Like go on almost like a mini date. And then at the end of that, if you are interested, maybe like get her number or connect on Instagram or something, and then ask her on a date. But I feel like you'll have a better chance if you do it that way.
Yeah. Because like Andrea even said with that guy at the coffee shop, she was in her mind like, okay, I think this is heading towards, being asked out on a date, but I'm trying to figure out if I want to or not. But basically, because he was asking, or because he was having a conversation with you, you were like considering like, okay, what am I going to do here? Rather than him just coming up and being like, oh, what did he ask you for the Wi-Fi or something? Oh, he was like, how are you getting Wi-Fi out here? Yeah. And then he didn't just be like, okay, do you want to go out?
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, like, are you even a safe guy? Like, if I go out with you, like, will I come back? So
totally. Will I come back?
So intense. Everyone's a killer out there these days.
I know.
Classic. Everybody.
Classic. If people have learned anything from listening to this podcast, it's that I assume the worst.
So
only if you're a stranger, okay? Sorry. I'm sorry.
No. Sorry. Well, we look forward to hearing your guys' feedback on this podcast or any experiences. I want to hear tips from other men and women of what's worked.
Totally.
And please prove us wrong if you really think girls should be asking you out on dates. I want to hear.
I would love to hear that. I would love to hear. Challenge our perspective. Go for it. I'd love to hear. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.